This is a 2023 Porsche Macan T, a brand new variant of the Macan model line that follows the same recipe as the 911 and 718Ts before it. And that recipe is take the base engine of the model, but add a sportier suspension and look. And that means right here we have the base engine of the Macan, but a suspension that's much more like the Macan GTS. More specifically, this 2023 Macan T is painted in Genesian Blue Metallic, which is a $700 optional paint, and it has the adaptive air suspension, which is a $1,390 option. That also lowers the car by 0.4 of an inch. From a base price perspective, the Macan T does sit above the base Macan, but beneath both the Macan S and GTS. But in reality, each Macan has its own distinctive traits and strengths. My name is Robin Warner, by the way, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and my strengths include talking excitedly and sitting. I review all kinds of cars, from a $25,000 Ford Maverick to a $425,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I'll happily jump into Honda Accords, BMW M3s, and Porsche 911 GT3s, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2023 Porsche Macan is $58,950. To get in a Macan T starts at $64,550, and my test car did include several options and goes for $70,330. All right, with all that, this is a good time to pull over and show you the car inside and out in a bit more detail. For 2022, Porsche updated the Macan, and that proved to just be the beginning, because for the 23 model year, we have a brand new variant, the Macan T. The first SUV variant to get the T treatment, and I think they did a very good job. Let's check it out. To start, of course, this Macan T does have the same styling updates as the 2022 model year Macans do, but what makes the T stand out are a couple little tricks. One of those is agate gray being placed in the trim, and there's actually a few different places that occurs, and I'm going to show that to you right now. The front trim, side view mirror covers, side blades, these guys down here, roof spoiler, and the rear logos. But generally speaking, we have this nice sloping hood, the pretty classic Porsche shaped headlamps right here, the crest right there. Here is your front camera for the surround view system, which is a $1,200 option, adaptive cruise control sensors, and, you know, general styling right here. I like the simplicity of this grille. Just a few horizontal slots right here gives it a nice sense of width, and this car is properly wide, especially for a compact SUV. Looking at the Macan in profile, it obviously still looks much like the first generation model did and has done. The changes are ultimately subtle. I'll go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now so you can check that out. Now, this particular Macan T does have the adaptive air suspension, and that does drop the car by 10 millimeters or 0.4 of an inch. And generally speaking, it's got the classic two-box SUV shape, and it does have a nice sloping profile. Macan Ts do have gloss black window trim right here instead of a more chrome finish, and what Porsche calls the side blade, this bit right here, also in agate gray, and Macan T itself is in black. These are actually the same wheels that you get on the Macan S. However, it does have its own finish, which is called dark titanium. And we are currently riding on Michelin Pilot Alpine winter tires because, as you probably saw, there's some snow on the ground. Generally speaking, I think this is the right size wheel and tire combination for this car. You do want a little bit of sidewall to work with to soak up some bumps, and yet still have a nice sportier look, which I think this Porsche does. And as you can see, the brakes mounted behind it are a pretty darn decent size as well, and that's true in front and in back. Looks pretty typical back here. Here's another look at our rear spoiler in agate gray. Nice sloping rear windshield right here. Macan T, Porsche, all that. Now, this was new for 2022 on Macans. This rear diffuser look-alike element does extend up higher than before and now includes the license plate. Because this is the Macan T, we have quad exhaust tips in gloss black, and yeah, they're a touch on the elaborate side, but they are definitely real. However, those are exhaust tips, quad exhaust tips into two exhaust pipes, and it does eventually trail down into one exhaust funneling up to the 4-cylinder engine. Anyway, it sounds good. That's the important part. And it also has a lot of space inside. Let me show you that right now. You get 17 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row, and you do have some nice little hooks right here to help hold luggage in place. And there is a 12-volt outlet right there and a tiny touch of extra space right here. Also, because we have the air suspension, we can actually lower the rear of the car to give a lower loading floor, which makes the Macan T have this kind of like squat shape, and I'll show you that right now just so you can check that out. But yeah, that's a fun little trick. Bring it back up, and underneath here is a little bit of extra space and your spare tire. And if you need more than 17 cubic feet of space, yes, of course, that is easy to do. And now you have 53 cubic feet of space and room for two. But is that 53 cubic feet of space enough for your road bike? Let's find out. There you go. It'll fit your bike. All right, let me show you the inside. This is on the larger side as compact SUVs go, and as a result, space back here is pretty darn good. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I'd say I have inch and a half of knee room. The seat bottoms are reasonably high, so I have decent thigh support, and I have right around a 90-degree bend in my knees, so not so bad. Moreover, I have headroom because there's no moonroof, so I have about an inch of headroom, and the rear passengers don't have full-on climate control zone back here, but they can adjust the temperature up or down, and you have a couple USB ports down there as well. You also have this nice stitching to look at back here, and if you don't have 3 people back here, yes, you do get an armrest and cup holders. Glorious, glorious days. All right, let's check out the front. There are a couple of cues that this is a Macan T in the interior as well, not least of which is this black aluminum Macan T kick plate right here. But check out these beautiful, deeply bolstered seats. I love this stitch work right here. I think that's really nice. Plus, look at that fat upper bolster right there. I mean, it just completely swallows the width of my hand, and nice and deep bolsters down here as well. You can see good shoulder support, and up there's stitching along the headrest and the Porsche crest embossed into the headrest as well. By the way, this is a power adjusting seat, and the headrest adjusts as well. You press this button to slide it forward and press the same button to move it up and down. Fairly typical controls on the door, and we have this nice polished metal right here, right at the top, and the Porsche trademark key or engine start of sorts is to the left, just next to the headlight switch. You do also have manually adjusting tilt and telescope steering. That is right there. We do have 2 real gauges with a tachometer in the center, speed to the left, and a nice little screen to the right, which you can adjust. I'll go ahead and start the engine. And there is that final screen lit up. And in front of that is the standard multifunction GT steering wheel, and that is the heated multifunction GT steering wheel. The button is right here. Heated steering is now on. Standard heated steering wheel is definitely a plus for us up north folk. This being a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, we do also have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. But even better than heated steering wheel, I'd say, is the standard Sport Chrono package, which I will talk about more in just a moment. To the right of all that is our 10.9-inch center console touchscreen, and that does include wireless Apple CarPlay. Looking down, we have dual zone climate control up front. That is standard, as are these heated seats for the front passengers right here. And generally speaking, this haptic touch lower center console screen is new for 2022 on the Macan, and obviously here for the 2023 Macan T. We do have an electric parking brake, a little bit of space right here, couple of cup holders, and some more storage down here. And yes, that does include a couple of USB ports and a couple other things as well. Above all this, this analog clock is also standard. And if we go up even further, you can see some controls for lights and things like that. Not much else because, as I said, no moonroof of any kind. And personally, I like that. That lowers your center of gravity height and gives you more headroom. And I just think it's a cleaner look. So all good things as far as I'm concerned. Okay, drive modes. Because we have the standard Sport Chrono package, we have 4 drive modes. They are Sport, Sport Plus, Individual, and Normal. And this button in the center, this is your Sport Response button. You press that, you get 20 seconds of maximum output from the engine and transmission and everything else. But when it comes to the drive modes, this is not just powertrain adjustments. We have standard adjustable shock absorbers and an air suspension. So the different drive modes definitely do change the different driving characteristics of the car. And I have a feeling I'll want to spend at least a little bit of time in Sport Plus. Anyway, we've taken long enough here for sure. Let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. As I said at the top, this is the base engine for the Macan, but that engine did get a power bump for the 2022 model year and now makes 261 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. However, it's not just the engine's output that's important here, but its placement. Unlike most compact SUVs that are sold today, this is a longitudinally laid out engine. That means it sits under the hood in this direction instead of this direction. For enthusiasts like me, that has 2 important advantages. First, it improves the weight distribution front to rear because the way the engine is laid out allows it to tuck back towards the firewall a little bit more, and the transmission sits behind it instead of next to it all in front. And because it has that better weight distribution, it has a lighter front end, which helps give it better turn-in response. So in other words, it has a faster reacting front end, and that means it can more eagerly transition from left to right and respond to your inputs. And here is where the beauty of the Macan T truly lies. Because it's the 4-cylinder engine and not the V6, it weighs 129 fewer pounds, and all of that weight is on the front axle. So that means compared to the Macan GTS, the top of the line Macan with all the tricks, this has a lighter front end, which means it is inherently more responsive. Very cool. Now, this still weighs almost 4,200 pounds, 4,187 pounds according to Porsche, so it's no lightweight. But it is lighter than the other Macans. That's the important bit. That transmission that is tucked farther back is a 7-speed PDK transmission, Porsche's dual clutch transmission. That's in all Macans and it works just fine here. And also, like all Macans, this is all-wheel drive. So yeah, I will admit it does not sound as nice as the 2.9-liter V6 that's in the Macan S and GTS, but as 4 cylinders go, it does have a nice little growl to it. We do have the sport exhaust, in fact, and it's pretty darn peppy. When you get on the gas, you get a response, and we're in the normal driving mode right now, and there was not much delay there. But even better, standard on the Porsche Macan T is the Sport Chrono package, which means I don't have 2 drive modes, I have 4, and I have the Sport Response button, which means if I want more urgency at any point, I just press that button, and it immediately kicks down a gear, and I get 20 seconds of really fast response. I get everything the engine can give me, and that's actually a pretty healthy amount. But otherwise, in the normal driving mode, it is a fairly calm engine that does pretty much stay in the background, and it does not drone at you or anything like that. It's a pleasant driving experience. So this engine is nice and dynamic in the sense that it can give you some aggression when you want it, but stay out of the way otherwise. Also, because this is the base engine, we actually get pretty decent fuel economy, considering that this is all-wheel drive. You get 19 miles to the gallon in the city, 25 on the highway, 21 combined. No, that's not award-winning, but it is definitely better than the V6 Macans, and again, because this is all-wheel drive, I'm going to say respectable. But right, fuel economy, Porsche, yeah, those don't add up nearly as well as acceleration. This is the base engine, but of course I still had to test it. Let me show you that right now. Okay, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the base 261 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, but I also have a 7-speed PDK and the Sport Chrono package, which means I have what? Launch control. Yep. Coming to a complete stop, I have the car in Sport Plus driving mode. I have my foot hard on the brake, so hard on the gas. 5,200 RPM and lift off the brake. Wow. Wow. Good stuff. Wow, great acceleration from the base engine. 261 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, but also the lightest Macan you can get. And with the launch control, you can go 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds, 5.8 seconds. Ah, yes, strong acceleration from this Porsche Macan T. All right, now let's get into the good stuff. And I'm saying that while I'm driving a compact SUV. I'm talking about handling. Funny world, right? This is a Macan T, but more than that, this is a Macan T with the optional adaptive air shocks that I talked about at the top of the video. That not only means the air springs and the lower ride height, it also means stiffer anti-roll bars and just more aggressive tuning in general. Furthermore, this also has the $1,500 optional Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus, which even further enhances the rearwardness of power delivery and just the liveliness of the chassis in general. Yeah, so that kind of like builds up your expectations a little bit, right? Well, now's the time to remind you that this is riding on winter tires. And I did notice that. And where did I notice that? I noticed that during a handling test. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a handling test in the Macan T. I do have it in Sport Plus driving mode, and I also have the stability control in Sport, so it's a lit limited. And I have an adaptive air suspension and adaptive shock absorbers and winter tires. So anyway, let's see how it goes. Yeah, it's definitely a responsive engine, and you know, PDKs always work well. Good flat, good body control, not a lot of grip from the winter tires. We have good steering response though. You can tell that this is not enough tire for this suspension. Oh yeah, and you can feel the rear ends trying to wiggle as well. Now, this does have rear biased power distribution to the rear axle, but because these tires are lower on grip than what the suspension is tuned for, that's also playing around with the front to rear balance. But this thing is very responsive, very reactive, very agile. You can definitely tell that this has 129 fewer pounds over the front axle compared to the Macan S and GTS. Remember that. This is the same suspension as the Macan GTS, and yet has a much lighter front end. That really plays to its advantages. So I very much am curious to see what this car's like on summer tires, but even on winter tires, it's still a lot of fun. It's a great combination. Lighter weight, fancy suspension. The T variant of Porsche is a very good variant. Okay, but as I mentioned, this car actually settles down quite well. Because we have adaptable air suspension, we also have standard Porsche Active Suspension Management, which is adjustable shock absorbers. This thing actually has a very pleasant ride when you're in the normal drive setting. So when you just need to get from point A to point B, you can do that in a lot of comfort. And that's true on roads like this or on the interstate. Yes, I tested it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, time for a stint on the interstate. Of course, I have it back in normal driving mode, and stability control is back on and all that kind of stuff. And we do have adaptive cruise control and some other safety things, lane departure alert and that kind of stuff. But I am largely going to focus on just how the ride is and everything else, because with Porsche, it is so much more important to just have the core driving experience explained, and the other stuff tends to work just fine. So let's see how this all goes. Okay, cruise control is set to go with flow of traffic right around 78 miles an hour. I do have the adaptive cruise control set at the minimum distance. We do have enough traffic that it might intervene here and there, and I am showing that I am having pretty good lane discipline, so I'm not getting beeped at much there. That tends to be what it is. You get kind of a buzz, a warning, small audio. It's subtle, but just as I predicted, we do have a very pleasant ride here. It soaks up bumps and heaves in the road totally fine. It is a touch on the stiff side compared to other premium SUVs, but entirely comfortable. Don't forget, adaptive air suspension and adaptive shock absorbers gives us huge flexibility in how this car behaves depending on what driving mode you are in. And normal is indeed normal. We also have really good road noise isolation and wind noise isolation. Even though we're on winter tires, they're behaving themselves well and not making too much noise, and it's keeping out the wind really nicely, which is something that I personally quite enjoy. One of the best cars I've had for wind noise isolation in recent history is the Cadillac CT5, and this Porsche Macan is pretty darn close to that. And because this is the base Macan with the 2-liter engine, we actually do get pretty decent fuel economy. Don't forget, this is all-wheel drive, and we are still getting 25 miles per gallon on the highway. Pretty good. Overall, this is a fantastic highway cruiser. Very pleasant, tons of luxuries. Oh, by the way, did I mention my hands are warm, my butt is warm, the cabin's staying nice and toasty, the 10.9-inch touchscreen is really easy to see and use, the haptic system on the lower center console is just as easy to use as well. So yeah, this is a very, very pleasant place to be. I would happily go on a road trip in this car, and I wouldn't mind if we had a couple of switchbacks and curvy roads in between as well. This is the first SUV that Porsche decided to make a T variant out of, a touring variant. That's what the T stands for. And just like the others, I really, really like it. A few years ago, when I still worked at Auto Week, I got the chance to drive the 911T and really found that to be an absolute blast. It seemed like the perfect car to have on roads as opposed to on a racetrack. And then last year, I got to make a video on the Porsche 718 Boxster T and really felt the same way about that. And that one, to me at least, really emphasized the advantages of keeping the car lightweight, yet also getting the fancier suspension. That combination of just lightweight and maximum agility was really enjoyable. Also, base engines in Porsches these days are pretty darn stout. And this Macan is basically the same thing. The lightest way, and yet the still most agile version of the compact SUV from Porsche that really can feel much more like a large hot hatch than a small crossover SUV. So I really did get that same sense that I got from the 718. Except this one is a bit taller, but also has all-wheel drive, and you can fit your bike in it. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out quite a lot. Also, be sure to check out my review on the 2022 Porsche Macan S. I got in that car not that long ago, and that gives you a better sense of how the Macan really can be different with the different suspension tune and engine. And actually, the difference in price between these two models isn't that much. And from there, man, I've done a bunch more videos by now, so hopefully there's something else you'd like to watch as well. And if you do find something else, I do hope you like it. Okay, goodbye for now.